What if I told you the most powerful position in any war isn't on the battlefield? It's at the banker's desk. While emperors made speeches and generals drew battle plans, one family quietly discovered something that would make them untouchable for 2 centuries. It doesn't matter who wins. What matters is who funds both sides. This is the Rothschild Playbook, and once you see it, you'll never look at conflict, politics, or markets the same way again. The year is 1803. Europe is on fire. Napoleon Bonaparte is rewriting the map of the continent, one battle at a time. Britain is terrified. Prussia is calculating. Austria is desperate. And Meyer Amschel Rothschild, a coin dealer's son from the Frankfurt ghetto, is watching all of it very carefully. Meyer had already figured out the first rule of financial power. Governments always need money faster than they can raise it. War costs, armies cost, moving gold across borders costs. And whoever can solve that problem, instantly, reliably, across enemy lines, becomes indispensable to everyone. So Meyer did something radical. He didn't pick a side. He placed his 5 sons in 5 cities, Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and built the world's first truly international banking network. Nathan in London, James in Paris, Solomon in Vienna, Karl in Naples, Amschel in Frankfurt, 1 family, 5 capitals, every side of every conflict. When Britain needed to fund Wellington's campaign against Napoleon, Nathan Rothschild in London arranged it. When France needed liquidity after Napoleon's defeat, James Rothschild in Paris was already there, ready to finance the new regime. They didn't care who won Waterloo, they cared about the bond market the morning after. Now, here's where history gets murky, and where the legend begins. The story goes like this. On June 18, 1815, the Battle of Waterloo is fought. Nathan Rothschild has a faster courier network than the British government itself. He knows Napoleon has lost, hours before anyone else in London. He walks onto the floor of the London Stock Exchange, and he sells. When Nathan Rothschild sells, everyone assumes it's bad news. Panic spreads, prices collapse. Then, quietly, through agents, he buys everything back at the bottom. By the time the official news of Wellington's victory arrives, the Rothschilds have already made their fortune. Now, historians debate exactly how much of this is myth versus fact. The legend grew larger over time, but the core principle it illustrates, that's completely real. Information asymmetry plus positioning on both sides of a conflict equals almost guaranteed profit. It wasn't magic, it was architecture, a system deliberately built to be ahead of everyone else, no matter what happened. Let's break down the actual mechanics. Because this isn't just a Rothschild story, this is a formula that repeats across history. Step 1. Become essential to both sides before the conflict begins. The Rothschilds didn't wait for wars to start. They built relationships with governments during peacetime, offering loans, managing currency movements, financing infrastructure. By the time conflict erupted, both sides already owed them something. You can't cut off a lender you're already dependent on. Step 2. Finance both sides, but structure the deals asymmetrically. Lending to 2 opponents doesn't mean you lose if one wins. It means you win regardless, as long as the terms are right. Shorter repayment windows on one side, collateral on another, different interest rates, different assets pledged. You're not betting on a winner, you're extracting value from the existence of the conflict itself. Step 3. Control the information flow. The Rothschild courier network was their true competitive moat. Faster news meant earlier repositioning. In an era before telegraphs, this was everything. Today we call this data advantage. In the 1800s, it was men on horses and ships moving across channels in the dark. Step 4. Consolidate power in the aftermath. The real money wasn't made during wars, it was made after them. Defeated nations needed reconstruction loans. Victorious nations needed to manage war debts. Both turned to the same banker. James Rothschild helped finance France's recovery after Napoleon. He then helped finance the railways that industrialized France. The same war that broke the old regime built the Rothschilds' next empire. Here's what most people miss when they tell this story. The Rothschilds didn't invent this playbook. They just perfected it earlier than anyone else. J.P. Morgan and the Panic of 1907. When the American banking system collapsed into chaos, J.P. Morgan essentially acted as a one-man Federal Reserve. He decided which banks would be saved and which would fail. He organized the bailout. And in the process, his bank emerged from the crisis stronger than it entered. Fund the stability, control the outcome. Major arms manufacturers sold to both the Allied and Axis powers in the lead-up to World War II. Through subsidiaries, licensing deals, and neutral country intermediaries. Some companies were literally supplying both sides of the same battle. When the war ended, they rebuilt what they had helped destroy. Same playbook, different century. Developing nations in political crisis receive emergency loans with structural adjustment conditions attached. Those conditions often reshape entire economies. The lender gains influence over fiscal policy, currency, trade agreements. The country that borrowed to survive now answers to the creditor. The battlefield changed, the formula didn't. Now let's talk about where this playbook lives today, because it's not in the 1800s, it's in your news feed. The largest corporations in America, banks, pharmaceutical companies, defense contractors, tech giants, don't donate exclusively to Democrats or Republicans. They donate to both. Every election cycle. It's not hypocrisy, it's insurance. Whoever wins, they already have access. They already have relationships. They already have leverage. The political battle is real for voters. For the largest donors, the outcome is nearly always manageable. A major venture capital fund invests in two competing startups in the same space. They don't know which one will win. They don't need to. If either achieves dominance, the fund profits. If one acquires the other, the fund often owns equity in the acquirer too. Fund the competition, own the consolidation. The modern equivalent of the Rothschild courier network is data. Platforms that process billions of transactions, searches, or communications have an information advantage that is genuinely structural. They know what's coming in consumer behavior, in market demand, in political sentiment before almost anyone else. The tool changed. The edge is identical. Now, we have to be honest about something. The Rothschild name has been weaponized for centuries. Anti-Semitic propaganda, conspiracy theories, scapegoating, they've all used it as a symbol for shadowy control. That's not what this video is about. And it's important to separate two very different things. One, the historical and documented financial strategies of the Rothschild family. Real, studied by economists and historians, and genuinely influential in shaping modern banking. Two, the conspiracy mythology, which is almost always a distortion used to assign a simple, sinister explanation to complex systemic forces, and which has historically been used to persecute Jewish people. The lesson of this channel is always the same. Systems are more powerful than individuals. The Rothschilds were extraordinarily skilled at reading and building systems. But the playbook they used, it existed before them, it continued after them, and it lives in institutions, not bloodlines. Understanding it makes you sharper. Misusing it makes you dangerous. So what do you actually do with this? First, stop thinking in terms of sides. When you watch a political conflict, a market crash, or a corporate battle, ask, who benefits from the existence of this conflict, regardless of who wins? That question will tell you more than any headline. Second, trace the financing, not the rhetoric. Speeches are theater, money is strategy. Who funded the candidate? Who holds the debt? Who gets paid during the crisis? Follow those threads, and the noise becomes signal. Third, build position before, not during. The Rothschilds were useful before wars started. That's why they got called when wars began. In your career, your industry, your relationships, the preparation that happens in calm periods is what creates leverage in turbulent ones. Fourth, information asymmetry is still the real moat. What do you know that others don't? What networks give you early signals? What position lets you see around corners? In any competitive environment, financial, professional, creative, the person with better information, structured into their decision-making process, wins more often than they should. The Rothschild Playbook is not a secret. It's in the history books. It's in the financial textbooks. It's in the lobbying disclosures filed every quarter in Washington. The reason most people never see it isn't because it's hidden. It's because we're trained to watch the battlefield and not the banker's desk. Now you know where to look. If this kind of financial pattern recognition is what you're here for, subscribe. Because next week, we're going inside the mechanism that ended the British Empire's financial dominance and how America took the seat at the table without firing a single shot. See you there.